Imagine stepping on a scale, seeing your weight drop by like 0.14 kilograms, and deciding you need to formally log that microscopic shift.
Yeah, that is wild.
Right. Most of us will call that incredibly obsessive. I mean, I wouldn't even notice that.
Oh, absolutely not. You fluctuate that much just by having a glass of water.
Exactly. But today's deep dive into a developer's meticulous life log reveals why tracking the tiniest details of your daily existence might actually be, well, the ultimate survival mechanism.
It really is, especially as we navigate these massive societal shifts being brought on by the AI revolution.
So let's get right into the source material. We are unpacking a highly detailed personal blog post titled The Interweb Review, Health and Project Progress, Week 27.
Catchy title, right?
Very clinical. It was published on July 5th, 2026, by an author who goes by the name Ang.
And we are looking at a really fascinating approach to personal agency here.
We are, because, think about it, we demand hard data and performance metrics in our professional lives, right? But we often leave our personal lives entirely unexamined.
Right, we treat our daily routines like a series of random, chaotic events that just happen to us.
Yeah, totally. So our mission today is to decode this weekly log. We want to see what one person's extreme self-tracking can teach you about optimizing your physical health, predicting the future of software development, and, surprisingly, how to find your own voice.
Which is so crucial in an age where AI can basically write anything for you.
Exactly. And what stands out immediately in Ang's review is the sheer interconnectedness of every data point.
Yeah, this isn't just a diary entry saying, I went to the store on Tuesday.
No, it is an intricate web of cause and effect. Ang is treating their life as a complex system. They are running constant experiments, observing the outputs, and making these microscopic adjustments.
Right, and before you can optimize your mind or your work, you have to debug the fundamental hardware. The physical body.
Yes, the body. And Ang's physical debugging is incredibly granular. Like, let's look at the sleep data.
Oh, the sleep data is fascinating.
Ang logs an average of 7.7 hours of sleep a night for the week. For most people, that's a huge win.
Honestly, I'd be thrilled with that.
Same. But Ang specifically notes needing 2 days of a 9-hour, quote-unquote, reset because of fragmented sleep.
And here is the wild part. Ang correlates this sleep fragmentation to high physical activity and eating pumpkin seeds daily for 2 weeks.
Okay, wait. Hold on. I could push back on that correlation. Pumpkin seeds.
I know, it sounds a bit out there.
Is it possible Ang is just like finding patterns in the static? We all have weird nights of sleep.
Sure we do.
Connecting a random Tuesday's insomnia to a handful of seeds feels like overanalyzing a system that is just naturally chaotic. I mean, does a diet change that small really alter your sleep architecture?
Well, the scientific validity of the pumpkin seed hypothesis isn't actually the most important takeaway here.
Okay, then what is?
What matters is the establishment of a hypersensitive feedback loop. Ang is paying such fierce attention to the inputs, the daily habits, the activity levels, that they actually have the capacity to hypothesize about those outputs in the first place.
Oh, I see. It is about becoming an active participant in your own biology rather than just a passive observer.
Exactly. You can only spot those subtle correlations if you have established a rigorous, unchanging baseline to measure against.
And man, Ang's baseline is strict. Let's look at how they fuel this system. They operate on a very deliberate 2-1-1 ratio for their diet.
Right, so that means every single meal is broken down into 2 parts plants, 1 part protein and 1 part carbohydrates.
And they stick to mostly 2 meals a day. The discipline is fascinating. Like when they do eat outside and have a high-carb meal, they immediately counterbalance the system.
Yeah, by coming home and eating boiled or raw vegetables.
The menu they rely on really reflects that discipline too. The log mentions staples like oatmeals, soft-boiled eggs, cooked salads, miso noodle soup.
Very predictable.
Highly predictable, easily measurable fuel sources. Think of this 2-1-1 diet like soundproofing a recording studio.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. If you have traffic noise pouring in from the street and planes flying overhead, you are never going to hear a subtle mistake in the vocal track.
Yeah, there's just too much background noise.
Exactly. By keeping their diet aggressively boring and consistent, Ang has effectively soundproofed their biology. They eliminated the dietary noise.
That is why they can actually hear the subtle static caused by something as small as the pumpkin seeds.
Which perfectly explains the weight logging you mentioned earlier. A drop from 70.10 Zeller kilograms to 69.96 kilograms.
Right. A drop of 0.14 kilograms is statistically insignificant to a doctor.
But for someone tuning an instrument, logging that shift is proof that the sensors are working.
The instrument is calibrated.
Exactly. And this tracking extends to physical movement as well. Aang averages 5,887 steps a day for week 27.
But it wasn't just a smooth, optimized week of walking, was it?
No, the system experienced a physical failure. Aang suffered a relapse knee and back injury.
Ouch.
Yeah. And the logged culprit was carrying heavy things during gardening chores.
Which really highlights a very human reality here. You can gather all the metrics in the world, establish perfect baselines, and sometimes you still just lift a bag of soil at the wrong angle and your back goes out.
Totally. But the difference is in the response. Like a typical reaction to a thrown back is taking some ibuprofen and complaining about getting older.
Guilty as charged.
Right.
Yeah.
But Aang treats it like a vulnerability in the system architecture that needs patching.
Yeah, they note instant relief from a heat pad treatment and sleep, but then they immediately map out a forward-looking mitigation plan.
They log intentions to resume strength training, buy specific exercise equipment, and revisit swimming, which Aang admits to constantly forgetting about.
They aren't just treating the symptom, they are reinforcing the structural integrity of the hardware so it doesn't fail the same way next time.
But here's the thing. You can optimize and soundproof the internal machinery all you want, but the external environment is always going to introduce chaos.
Oh, definitely. And week 27 really tested Aang's system with multiple external curveballs.
The climate itself refused to cooperate. Aang notes that heavy downpours hit during what was supposed to be a heat wave season.
Talk about a disruption.
Right. This completely derailed those gardening chores we just mentioned. Aang was in the middle of trying to germinate seeds and build a new plant rack, and suddenly the physical world turns into a tropical storm.
And we also see this environmental chaos manifest inside the home, too.
Yeah.
The log details a massive issue with their fish-keeping hobby.
Oh, the yellow-blue rack.
Yes.
So Aang is breeding cichlids, and one of the tanks on this specific rack suffered a heavy algae bloom infestation. It ruined the water quality.
So frustrating.
Aang had to completely replace the water and do a massive decluttering of the tanks.
But notice the mindset applied to the algae bloom. The frustration of a ruined tank doesn't lead to abandoning the hobby.
No, it triggers a hardware upgrade.
Exactly. Aang immediately lists the systemic improvements required for next week. Installing new sponge filters, acquiring LED lights, and even drafting plans for an outdoor pond on the backyard balcony.
The chaotic event is simply viewed as a stress test that reveals where the system needs better components.
Yeah. But managing a thrown back, torrential rain ruining your crops, and an algae bloom destroying your fish tank all in 1 week sounds incredibly stressful.
The mental software required to process that without losing your mind is intense. And Aang specifically writes about trying to maintain a baseline of being, quote, stoic and well-rested.
And the mechanism they use to achieve this is what we could call micro-mindfulness.
Right. The log details sitting meditations of just 1, 2, or 3 minutes.
Aang also practices walking meditations while running errands and utilizes mental noting while doing chores, like raking leaves.
Now, I genuinely struggle to see the utility in a 1-minute meditation.
Really? Why is that?
I mean, think of it like taking a quick mental screenshot to clear your computer's RAM. You force quit all the background anxiety apps in your brain for 60 seconds. But does sitting still for 1 single minute actually alter your nervous system?
That's a fair question.
Most traditional advice suggests you need to sit on a cushion in silence for like 45 minutes to see any real psychological benefit.
Well, if we look at the neuroscience of habit formation and stress management, frequency is often vastly more important than duration.
Okay, how so?
Consider the alternative.
Yeah.
If you meditate for a full hour on Sunday morning, but you spend Monday through Saturday entirely submerged in a state of high cortisol and reactivity, that Sunday meditation is just a temporary vacation.
Right, it doesn't change your baseline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's treating the symptom of the stress, not structurally reinforcing the mind against it.
Ah, I see. So by integrating mindfulness into the mundane act of raking leaves, or just sitting and focusing on the breath for 60 seconds multiple times a day.
Aang is transforming mindfulness from a tedious, separate chore into an ambient, continuous state.
It becomes a background process that is constantly running, constantly down-regulating the nervous system in real time before the stress can accumulate.
Precisely. And that real-time environmental optimization touches every single aspect of Aang's week.
Yeah, they are systematically decluttering 1 item a day.
They are managing the physical space, too, noting pending home repairs like grout work on the front balcony and curtain installations.
Even their hobbies are optimized for maximum efficiency. Aang mentions looking for a mobile macro lens during grocery run photo walks.
There is zero wasted motion. An errand to buy milk is simultaneously an opportunity to practice macro photography and shift their visual perspective.
Which is brilliant. And this relentless drive to iteratively debug the physical environment provides the perfect conceptual bridge into Aang's digital life.
Yes, the philosophy of treating the home and the body as a system is applied directly to how Aang views software.
Leading to a massive paradigm-shifting prediction about the future of technology and human collaboration.
This is where the log from July 2026 takes a really sharp turn into the future of the internet.
Aang makes a bold prediction about the bifurcation of open source software. They foresee GitHub, the central hub where developers worldwide collaborate on code, completely splitting into two fundamentally distinct groups.
And this is all because of the rise of AI.
Right. Aang defines these two diverging paths as the core projects and the app projects.
Let's break those down for a second.
Sure. The core group represents the deep foundation of technology. Compilers, foundational libraries, frameworks.
Aang points to pending tasks they have regarding continuous integration dependencies for Elixir 1.20 and Erlang OTP 29.
And for anyone outside the programming world, Erlang is a deeply foundational language. It was originally built for telecom systems.
It's designed for massive concurrency and zero downtime.
Yeah, it is mission-critical plumbing. Elixir is built right on top of it. And continuous integration, or CI, refers to the automated testing systems that ensure new code doesn't catastrophically break that existing plumbing.
So Aang predicts that this core layer will maintain strict, uncompromising rules against AI and large language model contributions.
Because the foundational grid requires rigorous human debate, consensus, and intense stability checks.
Exactly. You don't want individuals randomly using AI to swap out the critical pipes that keep the entire system running.
That would be a disaster. But the second group, the app projects, operate by entirely different rules.
These are the surface-level pieces of software that users actually interact with every day. The calendars, the web browsers, the PDF readers.
And Aang states that for this layer, contributing pull requests or PRs is practically dead.
For context, a pull request is the traditional mechanism of open-source collaboration.
Right. It's proposing a change or a new feature to the public code base, which the community then debates, modifies, and eventually accepts or rejects.
But Aang says the motivation to go through that communal debate is gone.
Why bother? Instead, users will simply fork the apps. They will copy the underlying code for themselves and use AI to completely customize it for their exact personal needs.
Aang uses the GNOME PDF reader, known as Papers or Events, is the prime example here.
Yeah, why bother arguing with 100 strangers on a forum about where the bookmark button should go or what keyboard shortcut to use?
Aang doesn't even need to know the programming language. They just fork the project, tell their AI to rewrite the interface exactly to their liking, and keep their perfectly tailored private version in sync with the main project.
It is the ultimate manifestation of the quantified, optimized self applied to the digital tools we use.
Software that bends entirely to the individual, rather than forcing the individual to adapt to the software.
Okay, hold on. Forking an app so I get my perfect frictionless PDF reader sounds incredibly convenient in theory.
It does sound nice.
But doesn't this completely destroy the ethos of the open source community?
How do you mean?
Well, for decades, software has been a communal democracy. We build things together. If every single person retreats into their own highly personalized, perfectly customized AI bubble, we lose that shared friction.
That's a really good point.
We stop compromising. Doesn't that isolate us entirely?
The fear of extreme digital isolation is incredibly valid. But if we analyze Aang's prediction closely, the communal effort isn't dying. It is simply migrating down the technology stack.
So, moving from a world of collective compromise everywhere to a world of dictatorship at the top and democracy at the bottom.
Yes, meaning the democracy remains in that core group, the Elixir and Erlang foundations.
Ah, okay.
Humans will still band together to build the roads, the electrical grids, and the plumbing. The community will fiercely protect the foundation, heavily regulating AI to ensure the collective infrastructure doesn't collapse.
But the surface level, the interior design of your specific digital apartment, so to speak, is entirely up to you and your AI.
Exactly. And Aang is already practicing this methodology on their personal pet projects.
Yeah, they know using AI to solve long pending features on some personal projects written in Haskell.
But they aren't just blindly asking the AI to write the entire program and hoping it works.
No, Aang mandates small atomic changes. They are using the AI to slowly piece together the logic so they can actually understand the underlying mechanics of how the features function.
This careful atomic approach to AI and coding brings us to the most philosophical insight of week 27.
Which is,
This hyper-personalization isn't just a tool for writing better software. It is fundamentally altering how Aang thinks and processes information as a human being.
we really see a fascinating feedback loop developing between human cognition and artificial intelligence here.
We do. Aang commits to a staggering output requirement, writing 3 posts daily.
3 posts a day is a lot, and they acknowledge a deep challenge in this era. Finding a unique human voice and style when AI can instantly generate perfect generic prose is incredibly difficult.
The strategy to maintain that voice while still leveraging the technology is highly specific, though.
Aang doesn't use AI to write the posts. They use dedicated AI prompts specifically focused on proofreading.
Furthermore, they rely on a tool called NotebookLM to generate discussions that serve as reflection notes.
Right. NotebookLM essentially takes source material and synthesizes it or creates dialogue around it.
Aang feeds their raw thoughts in, and the AI generates discussions that lead to what Aang calls insightful discoveries, which they save as favorites for future exploration.
Aang explicitly quotes the philosophy that writing is thinking. The churning out of numerous daily thoughts is directly complemented, not replaced, by these AI-generated discussions.
The intellectual inputs are varied too. Alongside this massive writing output, Aang logs 5 to 10 minutes of sporadic fiction reading daily.
They also note a lack of progress on a book they are trying to write about, the 3 highs,
The 3 highs refers to high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and high cholesterol.
which is a very common framework in health optimization, tying right back into the physical debugging we discussed earlier.
It does. But focusing on the cognitive workflow raises a vital question about our relationship with these new tools.
I think of NotebookLM as a digital sparring partner for your brain.
Oh, I like that.
You throw a punch, a raw idea, and the AI blocks it, counters, and forces you to examine your footwork and move differently.
Right.
But if the AI is generating the discussions, synthesizing the reflection notes, and proofreading the output, does the AI help you think? Or does it eventually bypass the friction and start thinking for you?
That is the danger, isn't it?
If you lean too hard on the sparring partner, do your own cognitive muscles atrophy.
The danger of cognitive atrophy is real if the tool is used to generate the initial spark. But look closely at the constraints Aang applies.
The human is entirely responsible for the raw input.
Exactly. Aang is the one living the life, experiencing the fragmented sleep from the pumpkin seeds, scrubbing the algae out of the fish tank, and standing in the heavy downpour.
The AI has zero lived experience.
None. Aang provides the sweat and the raw material, and then uses the AI purely as a mirror and a catalyst to refine that output.
It isn't ghostwriting the human experience. It is multiplying the human's capacity to reflect on it.
The feedback loop remains intact. The system works because the human remains at the center of it.
Let's recap the journey of Aang's week 27, because it perfectly illustrates how these layers stack on top of each other.
It really does.
It begins with the physical hardware, establishing a fiercely strict 2-1-1 diet baseline so that you can actually hear the biological noise of a 0.14 kilogram weight shift or the sleep disruption of pumpkin seeds.
Then from the hardware, we move to the immediate environment. Learning to view a relapse back injury or an algae bloom not as a personal failure, but as a system vulnerability that requires a structural patch.
Like new sponge filters or strength training.
Exactly.
Then processing the stress of those environmental curveballs through ambient, continuous micro-mindfulness.
Raking leaves becomes a mechanism to clear the cognitive RAM in real time, proving that the frequency of the intervention beats the duration.
That optimization mindset then scales up to global technology, the realization that software infrastructure will bifurcate.
The deep core code remains a heavily debated human democracy, while the applications we use daily become perfectly customized dictatorships, entirely tailored to the individual via AI.
Culminating in the optimization of the human mind itself. Using AI not to replace the friction of writing, but as a reflection engine to help process the raw data of a lived life.
proving that writing truly is thinking. Aang's weekly log is a profound demonstration of what happens when you decide to stop being a passive passenger in your own life.
Which is exactly why A Stranger's Log from July of 2026 holds so much value for you listening right now.
You do not need to meticulously log every step you take.
No, you don't need to weigh your plant-to-protein ratio or track how seeds affect your REM sleep, but the core lesson remains. Tracking something paying intentional, aggressive attention to just one system in your daily routine gives you incredible agency.
It allows you to spot the ripples before they become waves. It grants you the power to debug the reality you inhabit.
So we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today.
Take Aang's vision for the future of software. The idea of just forking an app, completely ignoring community consensus, and using AI to perfectly tailor it to your exact preferences.
Now, apply that to the physical world. If you could fork one specific aspect of your daily routine right now, just copy-paste it and use AI to customize it entirely to your weirdest, most specific personal needs without any input from the outside world, what would it be?
It really forces you to consider what parts of your life are currently built on frustrating compromises.
But the deeper question is this. Once you have that perfectly customized, friction-free routine tailored solely to you, does that ultimate convenience set you entirely free? Or does the removal of all that messy communal friction leave you completely isolated?